Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we are going to just systematically take a look at the markets, see what's going on, answer some questions. So let's go ahead and jump in. But before we do, I'm just gonna post this video in a few different places. All right, let's jump in. So, here we are. Bitcoin's at 26K, pushing 27K. We'll just do a brief overview of the market just so we're all on the same page, and then we will take questions. So, how's everyone doing tonight? Hope everyone is having a good holiday wherever you guys are. Let's see some of the questions. How long can this run keep going? Well, that is the $1,000,000 question, I guess. Still believe lengthening cycles are valid. I do, right? There's no way there's no way of convincing people that now, of course, but we'll see where it takes us, right? I'll go into 2021 with an open mind, but I also I want people to always have their expectations somewhat tempered, just in case it doesn't pan out quite as quickly as we want it to, right? I think a lot of people agree that it's all going to the same place. The main disagreement is how quickly we get there. So Max, I've seen your question. I think I've answered it a few times. He basically, the question is, when are we at a sustainable 20K? And I've answered this a few times, and I'll go ahead and answer it again. My opinion, and of course, you're free to disagree with me. You're free to assume that we're already at a sustainable 20K, and it's possible that we are, right? It's possible that we are. I would say a good test of it, however, in my opinion, would be to see the 20-week be over 20K, and then to see Bitcoin test and hold the 20-week when it's above 20K. So right now, the 20-week moving average is around 14.6. And if you take a look at 10K, okay, let's just take a quick look at 10K here, because we spent a long time at around the 10K mark. Now I think we're going to spend much less time at 20K. Okay, I think 10K was a much harder milestone to overcome. But if you just take a look at 10K, the first time we passed it, right, we were all the way up here. And if we were to take a move from the 20-week, when we passed it, Bitcoin was approximately 95% above the 20-week moving average, okay? And then it ultimately fell below at the 20-week. So you can see that right here, the 20-week moving average was around $10,000, and we failed to hold it as support. Okay, a pretty miserable failure, but understandable considering Bitcoin had just done 100x over the last couple years. And then when we got back to 10K, we ultimately fell back down below at the 21-week, this was the 20-week again. This was right around the 20-week in September of 2019. We failed to hold it again, and we came all the way back down. And then ultimately we came back up to 10K, did not break it, ultimately fell back below the 20-week SMA. And then this time, the time that we actually held it as support, and this was the first time we've ever held 10K as support, right? Bitcoin's never held 10K as support before this point. And it coincided, again, with Bitcoin, the 20-week SMA, getting to that level again, okay? It also coincided with the logarithmic regression band fair value getting to 10K. So you can see right here around it was getting close to 10K. I shouldn't say 10K. Now it's well above 10K. Now the fair value, according to this, is close to 11K. But according to when we held it, we were getting close to 10K. So for me, and obviously people are allowed to disagree. Of course, that's fine. For me, a sustainable 20K would imply that our bull market support band, which is this thing, which historically is where we find support whenever a correction does come, it would imply that that band is above 20K and we're holding it as support. Okay? And right now, again, the 20-week SMA is at like 14.7. And so we still have a while to go before we would get there. If you take a look at the current price and then go back, say 20 weeks. So let's go back 20 weeks and see where we would be. So we're essentially replacing 26K, 27K with 11K. And 26K minus 11K is 15K. We know that 14K divided by 20 is 700. So the 20-week SMA, assuming the price of Bitcoin stays around $26,000, $27,000 for the next 18 hours or so, it should move up around $700 to $800. And when it moves up $700 to $800 from 14.6, it'll put it at around 15.4. Okay, so I anticipate the 20-week SMA when we get our weekly close tomorrow to be around 15,400, 15,500. And of course, it'll take another several weeks, of course, for us to get above 20K, and it would also come along with the idea that the price of Bitcoin cannot crash, because if the price of Bitcoin were to crash back down, then we're not going to be getting the 20-week would of course not be over 20K by the time we test it. So I hope that answers your question, Max. For me, to see a sustainable 20K, I would like to see the bull market support band above 20K and Bitcoin holding it as support. We still have a little ways to go there, but of course we'll follow it and see what happens. Yeah, so Reggie says, okay, so what are your overall thoughts on the market? What has surprised you the most, and how does this really make you feel about the health of the market overall? Honestly, I did not expect it to go this high this quickly. One of the things I've contended many times is that short-term bubbles will exist. There's no way to really accurately know when they're going to occur. I didn't have my YouTube channel in the beginning of 2019, but I would gander that if I did, here I would not have suspected it to go to 14K by June, when it was all the way down at 31K in December. So it's hard to know when these bubbles will occur. And I like to call them micro bubbles, not the macro bubble that necessarily takes us to the peak. That doesn't mean that this move can't take us to the peak ultimately, so we're not saying it can't. It just means that when bubbles like this arise, they are very unpredictable, and I don't know how high they're going to go. We do the best we can, and that's why I always say to dynamically DCA profits. Again, if I take profits in Bitcoin, it doesn't mean that's necessarily where I think the short-term top is. It just means that, I'm up significantly, the risk is going up. I'd rather take profits, ensure that I live to fight another day, than to just hold forever and potentially watch it come back down. It's all fun and games, right, when it's going up. If it starts coming back down, we know that sentiment can change quickly. So we want to temper our expectations. I like to say cautiously optimistic, right? We're cautiously optimistic because I think most people expect Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, to generally push higher. But the rate at which it pushes up is obviously very quick right now. It's moving up fairly quickly. And so that's just something to consider. If you take, obviously switching to a linear scale doesn't really do it justice. We sometimes switch to it just to provide some perspective. But when you switch to a linear scale and remove that, and then we look at this, you can see how explosive this move has been, right? It's been incredibly explosive in such a very short period of time. And of course, it's always hard to know exactly how high up this will go. Um, if you look at the weekly RSI, right? And I mean, the downside to RSIs is that I don't really like them a whole lot because they can stay at fairly elevated levels for a long time, and a short-term price correction 1 week can bring it down a lot, and then it can continue trending higher. But just for some perspective, so we don't get lost in the clouds here, if you look at the weekly RSI, you can see that we are essentially where we were at the peak in 2017 and also in summer of 2017. So the weekly RSI is about, it's not quite as high, I think it's slightly lower on some of them, but it's essentially at that peak. Now, if you go to the BLX, these are actually 2-week candles. Let's switch back over to the weekly candle, auto this out, and we're just going to pull up the RSI here, just so you guys can see it has gone higher in the past, before the last cycle. So if we make this so you guys can easily see it, the weekly RSI in the first cycle reached 97, 98. In the next cycle, it reached around 99, 97. In this last cycle, the highest it got was around 90 to 91, okay, which is essentially where we are. So if you weren't here for the last bull run, it was pretty impressive, right? The bull run 2016 to 2017, it was pretty impressive. But in order for us to have gotten to this point, it was in the summer, and then we had this nasty short-term dump where a lot of people thought that was the end of the run, but it wasn't, and we continued higher. And then you had it again later on in the cycle, about half a year later. So we've seen this exact overbought condition in the last market cycle twice, and both times we were fairly close to a local top. Now, one thing you have to consider, I mean, we don't talk about fundamentals that often, but the general, the obvious things, of course, are institutional investors, right? And the idea that they're just going to continue to drive the price up forever. My contention is that we needed institutional investors all along to ever have a hope to get the price of Bitcoin to 6 figures. So this type of volume is needed because going from, say, $1 to $10, or say by market cap, from $1 million to a $10 million market cap, is obviously a lot easier than going from $100 billion to $1 trillion. Now, the market cap of Bitcoin is getting fairly close to $500 billion, right? So it's moving up pretty quickly, and if the price were to double from here, we would be flirting with a $1 trillion market cap. I generally think that the market cap of Bitcoin this market cycle should get closer to 2 trillion, which would mean doubling twice from here. So at least doubling twice from here. So going to 52K and then ultimately to 104K, slightly higher than that because that would actually be less than 2 trillion. And it would also depend on the supply at the time. Generally, I think maybe between 120, 140,000, 150,000, 150,000, something like that is theoretically possible this market cycle. I just don't think it'll happen next year, but if it does, so be it, right? If it does, so be it. So the weekly RSI is fairly overbought here, so it's not like it would be that surprising to see a correction, but we also know, if history is any indication, that this market cycle ultimately had a higher weekly RSI than the one before it. And the one before it was more explosive, generally speaking, in terms of its ROI from market cycle bottom. So just because the weekly RSI peaked around 90 to 91 in the last market cycle does not necessarily preclude it from not moving higher than that this market cycle. If you look at longer time frames, like if you look at like 2 weeks, you can see the trend, generally speaking, of course, down and back up, and then we had a quick dip and then back up, right? That was the double peak, down and back up. So we're moving back up. Of course, as we, there's one possibility this cycle is, a double peak or maybe a triple peak. It's always a possibility. Again, it's hard to know what's going to happen. One idea is, maybe it doubles every year, and we see something like that where the price doubles every year and a half or so. So 14K, 28K, 56K, 112K, and so on and so forth, right? If we were to, that's always a possibility. But let's just pull back up the RSI. So this is the, whoops. So that's the 2-week RSI, and so the last 2 weeks it moved up from 81 to 86, 85, 86. And January 4th, we'll start another one. And it'll probably move up closer to like 90. So it'll be getting close to the top as well. You look at, say, like the 1 month from November to December, it moved from 74, 75 all the way up to 80. So we could see something similar again, moving up 85, 87, something like that. Let me check on, I think one of my kids just woke up. All right, I'll be right back. I think my kid woke up. All right, we are back. Anyways, that generally covers, the RSI stuff. And then again, if you go and look at, say, the, I like looking at the log of the price over the 20-week SMA. And this helps us, of course, identify bull markets and bear markets, right? Generally speaking, bull markets and bear markets. So if it's red, we're not doing that great. If it's green, business as usual. But here, we're going to switch this over to the weekly. You can see again, we're getting pretty close to where we reached overextension from the 20-week RSI in the summer of 2019. So if we look at where the summer of 2019 peaked, again, we're getting close to it. And this is in terms of overextension from the 20-week moving average. And as I said before in videos yesterday, the day before that, a week ago, 3 weeks ago, in order for us to get to the same level of overextension, if we were to go there within the next week or so, because it is a function of the 20-week SMA, and that is that varies, right? It's not invariant. So if we were to go to 27K, we're basically there. If the price of Bitcoin were to go up another 1,000K or so, we'll certainly be there, and maybe even going above it. So in terms of overextension from the 20-week SMA, we are essentially where we were in 2019. And then the other way to measure it, of course, is looking at the macro peak down, and we're getting closer to that too, right? We won't hold that forever, but in order to get to this point, we would need to rally up to around 31,000. I think $30,000 to $31,000. If we were to do that within the next week or two, we would be at that point. Again, does not mean we can't go above it. I just want to give people ideas of what it would mean in terms of the macro analysis of these market trends. So that's what it would look like if we hit that trend. And then the other way to measure it, if you go to the fair value logarithmic regression price and say go to overvaluation from the fair value, in the summer of 2019, we were overvalued by about 195%. From the fair value today, we're currently overvalued by 144%. So to get to the same level of overvaluation from the fair value, it would imply a $31,000 Bitcoin, close to a $32,000 Bitcoin. But again, it depends on when we get there. If it takes us a month to get there, then it would be even higher. So as measured from the fair value, which is a logarithmic regression fit to quote-unquote non-bubble data, then it would imply getting to a $31,000 or $32,000 Bitcoin before we're overvalued the same amount as we were in 2019. Okay, so a lot of different ways to measure it. The local top could theoretically already be in, right? I mean, where it could be, but we'll see how high we push it. If you switch to some other interesting time frames, like the 3-day time frame, things look incredibly bullish, right? Mostly green candles, and these are 3-day candles. Mostly 3-day green candles, a few red ones, mostly moving up. If you switch it over to say 12-day candles, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row of 12-day candles. This one just started today, so the next one won't start for a while, right? I mean, these are 12-day candles. This one was December 14th to the 26th. The next one will take us 12 days from here. And again, if you look at 2-week candles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row, all green, right? Momentum is a hell of a thing in these markets. And generally speaking, most forms of traditional TA, I don't think are that useful. But one thing that is useful is momentum. And the idea is things that are doing well are more likely to continue doing well than things that are not, right? So what that means is that in a scenario like this, and this would have been true for the last 10 weeks, something like Bitcoin that's doing very well is more likely to continue doing well in the short term than some other random cryptocurrency that's not doing well, because there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are sitting still right now, and of course we all want them to start moving. Ethereum is a great example. Most people watching this channel probably want Ethereum to start moving. And if you look at it, if you measure it from the bottom in March, it's up fairly significantly, right? It's up 600%. Bitcoin, as measured from the bottom in March, is up around 569%. So even with this very bullish move by Bitcoin, as measured from the bottom in March, Ethereum has actually outperformed it. I mean, part of that is not fair to Bitcoin, because part of it is just because when Bitcoin capitulates, other coins capitulate more, so then you ultimately end up measuring it from a lower initial price, just because that asset capitulated more when Bitcoin did. But be that as it may, if you were buying either of these assets in March, they're pretty much neck and neck at this point, right? A 569% return for Bitcoin and a 618% return approximately for Ethereum. So basically everyone wants to see Ethereum move. I'm right there with you guys. The majority of my portfolio is still Bitcoin, and I would recommend anyone, I mean, it's not financial advice, right? I don't want to give out financial advice, but in my opinion, as I've said many times before, the majority holding of your portfolio in the cryptocurrency market should in fact be Bitcoin. And it's just a simple fact, right? If Bitcoin volatility is through the roof, whether it's going up or down, and if you have to have crypto exposure and it's not a stable coin, generally Bitcoin's where you want to be. If the risk on Bitcoin is low and it's hugging the 20-week moving average, generally Bitcoin's where you want to be. Until Bitcoin starts moving sideways, or corrects back down some and lets something else take over for a while, Bitcoin will remain, it'll continue to hold the spotlight. So until this trend changes, right? Until that trend changes, we don't expect this to turn. We don't expect Ethereum to have a major breakout. It can slowly move up, right? It can slowly move up, but the downside is that it's more or less been range bound between like 550 and 680 or something for the last couple of weeks or so. Despite the fact that Bitcoin has moved up substantially during that time. I will remind you, if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 75,000 subscribers. And also give the video a thumbs up if you guys like the content. So when it comes to Ethereum, I personally would not expect it to move until we see a shift here. Until there's something definitively different here, I do not see a sustained move. Yes, any day we might wake up and see Ethereum up 10%, 15%, maybe it even goes up to $700 or breaks $700, but most people that are in Ethereum right now are not going to get out of bed for a $700 Ethereum, right? They're more thinking $1,000 Ethereum, a $1,500 Ethereum, right? Something to say, okay, this is the reason why we held Ethereum in the first place. Of course, holding Bitcoin is more important, but if you're going to take some of the opportunity costs of not putting the money into Bitcoin, you better have a hell of a good reason. So far, again, as I said, Ethereum has been on par with Bitcoin for the most part this year. It's just that in recent times, there's recency bias. Bitcoin has outperformed, and so people are very bearish on everything else. As I've said before, I don't consider an Ethereum an altcoin, but generally speaking, altcoins are dead until they're not. And then when they're not dead, it generally leads a lot of new people into the space. And when it brings in new people to the space, these guys generally come in after Bitcoin has stopped moving. A lot, like a flood of people will come in after Bitcoin has stopped moving and altcoins take off. They come into the market, they look, they buy Bitcoin, they get frustrated because Bitcoin's not doing anything because they already missed the move from 4K to 27K, right? Or wherever we end up seeing a local top. They miss that move. They get into Bitcoin, they start to see these other coins flying, they then FOMO into those coins, chasing the pumps. Some people get lucky, make a lot of money, a lot of people don't, and they get completely wrecked by the people like us. Wishful thinking, of course. They get completely wrecked to some degree by the people that have been sitting on these positions and accumulating them for years. Because if you were accumulating Ethereum this last year, you guys remember we had the video on the accumulation phase of a lifetime for Ethereum at around 230. We had the reaccumulation phase of a lifetime of Ethereum around 400. And here we are, we're sitting at 642. How many reaccumulation phases of a lifetime can we have in 1 year? It's a pretty great lifetime if we continue just keeping on moving up. I do think that there is a lot of upside potential for Ethereum, but I think people just need to be patient, and we just got to ride the Bitcoin train. It's simply riding the Bitcoin train. And if you find yourself in a position where you don't own a lot of Bitcoin, it's not the majority of your portfolio, or if you don't own any, as I've said before, it's too risky not to hold Bitcoin. I would not buy it at 26,000, but that doesn't mean you can't if you're just looking to get some exposure. I do think it will trend to six figures over the next few years, but I do not have any idea what it will do in the short term. Okay, I do think it will trend up over the next few years. No idea what the short-term ROI is. So if you're just looking to establish a position in Bitcoin, you could start accumulating it at any level and recognizing the fact that it could come back down. And if it does, that would be good for you because you can accumulate more at a lower price. So it's important if we find ourselves in another altcoin season where there's like 3 weeks of just altcoin mania, it's important to stay resolute during that time and to stay grounded and remember that if coins are going 5x, something like that, 10x, whatever it may be, generally it's not sustainable. And whenever Bitcoin corrects, then those coins that saw the highest returns will generally correct harder. So the best way, in my opinion, to navigate the market is whenever those coins are going parabolic, you DCA sell them back to fiat or back to Bitcoin. If you go back to Bitcoin, then you're just systematically increasing the amount of Bitcoin you have. So in the event of a correction, yes, you're going to lose value against USD, but if you operate in a somewhat deterministic way, assuming that Bitcoin will go to six figures over the next few years, then you want to get as much Bitcoin as you can, right? Imagine if you know that Bitcoin goes to, let's say 150K, let's just keep it simple and say, let's say 100K in 2 years or something. Then that means if you have 10 of them, that's $1 million. So the goal, of course, is to make sure that you know, when these altcoins kind of expand and balloon, you don't want to ride that altcoin bubble back down, right? You want to basically ride the bubble out and then jump off at the nearest station and then watch it contract back down, and then you're either in Bitcoin at the time or you're in stable coins at the time. So that's generally speaking what I think is the best way to navigate the market. So remember, if you don't have a majority of Bitcoin, if your portfolio is not a majority of Bitcoin, if there is an altcoin season in the not so distant future, remember to take that opportunity or see that opportunity for what it is and try to convert some of that back into Bitcoin if you want to make Bitcoin the majority of your portfolio, because you see what happens when Bitcoin goes up, right? The rest of the market more or less sits still, and if Bitcoin does trend to 150K or something over the next few years, imagine how many times you're just going to be sitting here watching Bitcoin go up and watching the rest of the market not do anything. Okay, imagine how many months will go by where Bitcoin is just ruling the roost completely. So that's why I say, when you get the opportunity, make sure you try to at least consider the idea of making the majority of your position into Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean you can't speculate on some altcoins or Ethereum and try to use those to increase your Bitcoin position, or it doesn't mean you can't just hold them to improve your risk-adjusted returns, because holding, say, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Link, and maybe a few other coins like ADA, a few other coins, you know, it should help increase your risk-adjusted returns, right? The Sharpe ratio or the Sortino ratio if you don't want to punish negative volatility. So this is the general idea. So Ethereum USD, I mean, this is probably the most bearish we could be for a $642 Ether. I mean, who would have thought back in March when we were sitting at less than $100 Ether that we would be sitting later this year at a $642 Ether and be somewhat upset about it, right? Times can change really quickly. You know, if you look at the Ether Bitcoin valuation, I mean, we have sunk down incredibly this month. I mean, it's a fairly significant drop out of this uptrend we had been in. We also know that historically speaking, a lot of times the Ether move does not come until January, right? You can see this turnaround point came in January. This one also came in January. January 2016, we started pumping after a long downtrend. January 2017, we started pumping after a long downtrend. In December of 2017, we started in December this time and continued into January. The following December, it started in December and not January. And then this past year, it started in January. So we'll see what happens, right? We'll see if it starts in January. This is just a historical look, right? You know, there's no guarantees we're going to see a move in December, January, February, March. We just know that generally speaking, that is when we are likely to see moves. And what ultimately would need to happen before we would see a move would be for Bitcoin volatility to calm down. If Bitcoin goes to 30K by the end of the month, and then it's at 35K, a week or two into the month, and then it goes to 40K or something by the end of January, I would not expect Ether to break out against Bitcoin. Maybe it would later in Q1, but again, ultimately we want to see Bitcoin volatility calm down before we would have a chance of seeing Ether break out. So hopefully that covers Ether. If you look at Link is doing okay against USD. I think this is generally speaking, I think it's a decent coin to accumulate. Of course, the argument goes that a lot of people will say it's completely overvalued right now. But generally speaking, I am accumulating Link, and I think this is one that I will continue to accumulate as long as we stay at these levels or below, right? Even if Link USD drops down to like $7 or $8, I'll still be accumulating. Remember, this market cycle is probably going to be a long one, so I would say just buckle up and enjoy the ride. ADA USD is doing quite well. We're currently at 16 cents, which is close to our top this year. I mean, our top isn't that far away. ADA, a good hedge against Ethereum, right? A lot more risk, make no mistake about it, a lot more risk than Ethereum. But if you're looking for a hedge and you don't just want to get bogged down by Ethereum, entirely Ethereum or something other than Bitcoin, I think ADA is a decent option. Polkadot is another one you can take a look at. Link Bitcoin has gotten absolutely destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. No way to, there's no way to sugarcoat it. But then again, most coins have, right? I mean, ADA has also gotten destroyed against Bitcoin. Most coins have gotten destroyed against Bitcoin. Ethereum's gotten destroyed against Bitcoin. Link has gotten especially destroyed because it made a 10x move this past summer, and these other coins, generally did not go up quite as much as quickly as Link did. Some of them did, but from the top, Link is down. To the bottom, it was down around 80% against Bitcoin. Is that unrecoverable from? Well, as I showed before, we've said Link is there's a good chance Link is one market cycle behind Ethereum. I think a lot of people just like to think of the upside associated with that, right? Ethereum, if just to give you an idea, if you'd put $1,000 into Ethereum in November of 2015 and cashed it out in January of 2018, I think it would have netted you around 1.5 million. So that $1,000 investment would have turned into 1.5 million in about a little over 2 years. Okay. In the same manner, Link, from this point, from this bottom, through the bear market and recently through the bull market, is up 9,000%. So remember, 900% is a 10x. So 9,000%, we're looking at essentially 100x here. And you can see right down here, 12 cents, 11 cents, $11. So far, if you would put $1,000 into Link in November of 2017, it would already be worth about 100 grand not that long later. So Link is also performing exceptionally well. Now, a lot of people like to ignore the fact that while Ethereum did perform exceptionally well against Bitcoin last market cycle, there was also a lot of downside. There's also a lot of downside against Bitcoin. Here, an 80% drop against Bitcoin. Here, an 84% drop, an 85% drop against Bitcoin. Here is another one, an 85% drop against Bitcoin. Essentially, if you're not dropping against Bitcoin 80 to 85%, that's more of an outlier, right? Because we know that Ethereum was one of the best performing cryptocurrencies, right? It just simply has been one of the best performing cryptocurrencies, and even though it has been one of the best performers, it did not preclude it from dropping 80 to 85% against Bitcoin. So yeah, is it annoying that Link has dropped 80% against Bitcoin? Yes, of course, right? I mean, who wants to see this happen? Well, some people probably do. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily preclude it from being able to recover one day. If you look at Link USD, and if you take these three as the major peaks, and we go a measured move between them from this top to this top, it was a 224% move over 532 days. This top to this top was a 322% move over 422 days. If we were to continue the trend and go, say, maybe 400% over even a shorter time frame, because it looks like they're getting shorter, and we were to go, say, 300 days and go up, say, 400%, then maybe, if we're lucky, we'll be looking at a $100 Link this summer. But again, there's obviously a ton of speculation involved in that, and it's not something that should ever be considered financial advice. It is pure speculation. We really have no idea where these coins are headed. If you take a look at ADA against Bitcoin, I would say it's generally back into accumulation mode as we described last year, or back down to this level. So I think ADA is in accumulation mode here yet again. VeChain, another coin we talk about occasionally, has a pretty well-defined trend against Ethereum so far. Peaks up here and general bottoms in this region. So I would say, it could trend down, of course, but you could argue that VeChain is at least in some level of accumulation against Ethereum right now, because this is one of the lower levels of Ethereum that it has been. Of course, it could drop lower. If you look at the ADA Ether valuation, so if we pull up, let's pull up ADA Ether. So you can see that ADA Ether generally trends down against against Ethereum, but also has these major peaks essentially at around the same level, at around 54,000, 55,000, 60,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So something like that, right? It comes down, back up, down, back up. Each time it kind of goes further down and back up. Kind of maybe it's lengthening as well. Maybe we'll see something like that again. Okay. Generally, my thoughts on ADA. But I could see, I don't necessarily think that it has to follow this line. I mean, it could come up sooner, right? ADA has never really experienced a full bull market, so we don't really know what it would be capable of during a bull market. This is just bear market and accumulation trends for the most part. Only recently has Bitcoin gotten into full-on bull market mode. The dominance for Bitcoin has been shooting up a lot, okay? So this trend that we had, completely broken, right? Because we had, we were looking at putting in lower highs each time. We did that 4 times in a row, more or less, came up to it, broke through. So the trend has changed. Maybe the dominance is going to continue to rise up higher. Currently, we are at around 71% dominance. So Bitcoin, needless to say, has reclaimed a lot of the dominance that it has lost since January of 2018. And in fact, the highest we've been since January of 2018 was over here in September of 2019. And during this time, you guys remember what happened, right? We reached, 73% dominance? What also happened around this time? So August of 2019, let's go take a look. What happened August of 2019? Well, July of 2019, June, July was the top. So August was when we started correcting, okay? So if Bitcoin were to have a nasty correction and it happened swiftly, then the dominance would likely go up because other coins would likely correct harder. However, if it ends up finding some support or finding some support at some lower level and maintaining it, maybe it initially goes up higher again and then maybe bleeds back down. Of course, there's a lot of people that will say the narrative, and I'm not going to say it's not true. There's a lot of people that will say that the Bitcoin dominance will continue to go up for a while as people just ride the Bitcoin train. And we'll see what happens. Either way, it's always important to keep a majority of your portfolio, in my opinion, in Bitcoin, just because it is the market mover, and you don't want to miss out on the move, these major moves that we have. So, remember, if you guys like the content, to subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. We also have a Telegram channel, and I will post the link to the Telegram channel in the chat. We have over 10,000 people in the chat, so if you're looking for a Telegram community that's fairly well moderated, you can check out that Telegram chat. And then also, one last thing before we get into questions, we do have the premium list. You guys can check that out on the website. We do have a holiday sale continuing to go on for a little bit longer, and you'll get access to weekly reports, weekly videos, the risk dashboard, trading view indicators, a Telegram alert channel, and a few other things. So with that said, why don't we go ahead and take questions? If you guys have a lot of questions, we'll try to jump through them, and we will take it from there. Yeah, so I've seen some questions on Litecoin. So Litecoin is one of those ones that I personally think should stand to do quite well at this point in the market cycle. Okay, I've said before, when Bitcoin gets above the prior all-time high, Litecoin has a way of generally speaking, of trying to keep up with it. So Litecoin, it's currently at around 5,000 Satoshis. I do think that Litecoin, and this, I'm not even talking about the fundamentals, right? We just stick to the data for better or for worse, right? So Litecoin is one that I could see the trend continuing to significantly shift and maybe maybe come back up some. Okay, so keep an eye out on Litecoin. That will be one we will follow a little bit more on the channel now. Ethereum, as I said, Ethereum's it's underperforming Bitcoin because Bitcoin volatility is high. That's the reason. Um, again, I would say I just stick to the data for the most part. Obviously, XRP has not worked out well in the short term. But again, I can't predict these like black swan events that come with this stuff, right? And that applies to any cryptocurrency, and that's why Bitcoin ultimately is the safest one to some degree. But we'll see what XRP ends up doing. If we just pull it up really quick, because I know I've seen the question come up a lot. Generally speaking, we're all the way back down in this lower band here, right? All the way back down here, back down. Obviously, there's a lot of fear right now surrounding with XRP with the recent news, but we'll still cover it from time to time and see where it's headed. I do actually have a small position in XRP, but I don't really plan on adding any more to it at this point. All right, what other questions? Can you guys still hear me? I'm starting to wonder if the stream is still even running. Yeah, so we're gonna try to expand our discussions in 2021. We're gonna be talking a little bit more about decentralized finance, centralized finance, all the different platforms, right? You can earn interest on crypto, and of course, some of them have native tokens. So we will be going through some of that in 2021. That's generally my plan. Someone says, "Is there a reason we haven't looked at?" He lists a few coins. We've looked at the Uniswap governance token, and as I've said before, I own some of the Uniswap. I own some of it. It's not a large position because I don't want to I don't want to speculate too much, right? But I do own some of this coin. Okay, and the reason is generally speaking, this decentralized exchange. Anytime there's an altcoin season, this exchange goes crazy in volume. And I think it's probably only going to grow from here. And when that happens, I just imagine this coin is probably going to pump. So I do own, and we have videos on this. They're few and far between on the channel. I think I have at least one or two. We've spoken about it in a few live streams. I do own this coin. What does my wife think about investing in crypto? I don't. She's not really into crypto. She did make this shirt. I don't know if you guys can see the logo, but she gave me this shirt. She gave me a couple shirts for Christmas, and they actually have like the Into the Cryptoverse logo. So I thought that was pretty cool. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if there's other questions. Yeah, sorry, I'm not selling the shirt. Um, yeah, we can pull it up. So I was gonna wait until next year to talk more about this token, but generally speaking, it has done pretty well. Okay, it's done pretty well. This is a Celsius network token. This is one of the centralized platforms you can use to earn money, earn interest on your crypto. They have a pretty interesting ecosystem, tokenomics behind the coin. This is one I do hold. I generally don't like talking about micro cap coins, but now it's not really a micro cap anymore. So, and generally speaking, my cutoff for talking about a coin is around a $1 billion market cap now. I try to keep it around there. Some of them are slightly less than a billion. Some of them, of course, are a lot more than a billion. But generally speaking, I like talking about coins that have at least a billion or around a billion market cap. And this one does, right? But a year ago, it didn't. And so I don't like talking about smaller cap coins. But you can see, I mean, it's basically up 100x this year. So a pretty substantial move, from 4 cents to $4. So this is one I do own, and I do think it's really risky, right? It's up 100x. So if you're buying this coin, you're potentially buying someone's bags who bought it at 1/100th of the price that you're buying it, 9 months later. So that could be a tough pill to swallow, and is why I'm generally hesitant to talk about these types of things, because when something's up 100x, it's very risky. It's very risky to get into. Even at $1, I thought it was risky. Now it's at $4. We'll see where it takes us. We probably will talk about it some on the channel. Right now it's around 393. It's been up 100x this year though, so I would say tread with caution, proceed with caution, but it's a pretty impressive trend. And if you look at its trend against Bitcoin, I mean it's a pretty nice trend against Bitcoin too, right? So, but I mean again, tread carefully. It's up 100x this year, so you understand the risk associated with that. I mean, Link is also up 100x, but it's up 100x, over like 3 years. Okay, so it's up 100x over 3 years. Celsius is up around 100x over the last 9 months. I do use decentralized finance platforms. I do. I've used Uniswap a lot before. There's a few other ones I use as well. Someone said, what channel do I discuss stocks on? This channel, but I only really go into stocks whenever the crypto markets are cooling off, and right now they're not cooling off. And the reason we focus on crypto is because I think they provide the most attractive risk-adjusted returns right now. And until that changes, the focus will be on crypto. Remember, if you guys like the content, to subscribe to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. Let's see what Bitcoin's doing. We're still at 26.7. What's the actual... So it looks like we made it on Coinbase. We made it to around 26,950. Sorry, I'm just trying to there was someone spamming the chat, so I just had to take care of that. Likelihood of a multi-year Bitcoin bull run incoming. I think there's a pretty good chance. There's always a possibility we break the 20-week at some point and then reestablish it, and so it might not be one continuous, 3-year bull. we could always break it for a few months and then get back above it. But I do think we're probably in for a generally good 3 years. But there's going to be downtimes, right? There could be periods of 3 to 6 months where things aren't going so great. But I do think the next few years will generally trend out. We already spoke about Litecoin, so I would say just go back and check that out. I don't really have a favorite crypto related stock. Um, okay, fine. You guys have pestered me enough about it. We'll pull it up. This is another coin that everyone likes talking about. We don't really talk about it on the channel. I don't own this coin, but obviously it has a pretty nice trend. It's up from the bottom, 0.002. Now it's 0.09, up pretty substantially here. So over the last 9 months or so, it's up around 4,000%. Pretty risky, right? I mean, obviously buying up here is risky. Doesn't mean it can't go up, but I mean, you see the move, right? I generally would say don't chase pumps. If you're going to buy these coins, wait for them to cool off a bit. I mean, it could trend higher, of course, but generally speaking, I don't like chasing pumps because how many people here, and I'm sure it's most everyone, a lot of people will see these coins pumping and then you go to buy it, and then right after you buy it, that's where it comes back down, right? And then you have to wait a while for it to kind of recover from that. Tax strategy, I have an accountant. So far we were 25K on the 25th, 26K on the 26th. What's coming on the 27th? And then it makes you wonder what's coming on the 1st. um, Sorry, I'm just reading through the chat. A lot of them aren't really questions. It's just people talking. Someone says, do I own VeChain? I do have a small position. It's not one I regularly accumulate. I do have a small position in it. I don't own XTZ. I think maybe it'll do well, but again, I really like to look at trends and follow trends. And, XTZ, look at XTC's performance against Ethereum. I mean, maybe this is getting close to a bottom, but I mean, this is one nasty trend, and I don't really want to be part of that trend. And to me, it's not worth it, right? It's not worth coming in here on the off chance it starts to come back up, right? I don't really care. This is not a trend I want to be a part of. We'll see what happens, but certainly, so, look at this is against Ethereum, not even against Bitcoin, right? From this top here, it was down, 80%, 81% against Ethereum. And we also know that Ethereum is down 40% or well, I don't know from April, but Ethereum's down over against Bitcoin the last few months. Yeah, we don't do super chats. Just invest your money. Um, Sorry, I'm just taking care of some of the spammers in the chat. It's one of the nice things about live streams, of course. They like to come out and troll, and we'll let them. We'll take care of them. No, I'm not buying Bitcoin at 26K. I'm just not. I mean, if we sat at 26K for a year, then probably. But now, would I buy at 26K? No, it doesn't. And again, it doesn't mean I don't think it can't go up. It very well could go up. I feel like it's more likely to go up than not. I mean, just by looking at the momentum behind this move. It will correct at some point, but would I want to buy it right now? No. Again, people misconstrue that and think that that means that I think this is the top. I don't necessarily think this is the top. It's just I don't want to buy it when it's this overextended. That's all it means. You know, people keep saying, I've seen a lot of people say that the Bitcoin dominance is at an all-time high. I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, it's not even above the high in 2019. And I mean, look at 2017. I really struggle to understand why people say that the Bitcoin dominance is at an all-time high. I mean, like, what are you talking about? If you're talking about this point, it's still not above that, and this point is still well below these. I mean, you know, it was 95% back in 2017. My strategy is I do take profits. I do it dynamically, which means I take small amount of profits at a lower risk level, and as we continue to go up, I take more and more profits at increasing the sales linearly, so like a multiple. Remember to subscribe. Let's see how many subscribers we're at. Alright. Close to 75K. Make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, turn on notifications. Yeah, we can pull it up. We can pull up DXY. You know, this basically is a good way to see where the market. You know, if you see DXY recover a lot, then it generally is not good for Bitcoin. So if you look at this move here from late 2016 to early 2018, DXY, so the US dollar currency index, was dropping, right? And it dropped 15%. That also accompanied a Bitcoin bull run, okay? If you look since March, DXY has dropped 13%. And during that time, Bitcoin has rallied from $4,000 to almost $27,000. So again, if the US dollar is losing value, right? If it's losing valuation, it's a good thing for Bitcoin. So if you see us, you know, coming back up at some point and the trend change, it could indicate that Bitcoin, the Bitcoin short rally could be over in the short term. Of course, we could continue down. And to give you an idea, Bitcoin essentially, you know, started around this point over here. And it has not seen a whole lot of action of DXY in terms of where it has historically been. But if you scroll back, right, this is the macro trend of the US dollar. Okay, so the question is, are we going to come back up, which a lot of people don't think we would because of all the money printing and whatnot. Are we going to come back up like this over the next couple years? Or will we continue this macro trend down? Coming down, there's this level here. Are we coming back down? And if we were to come back down, that could lead to a pretty impressive bull market by Bitcoin. So it's just something to keep an eye on. I can't tell you if you should sell your altcoins to Bitcoin because a lot of times when people do that kind of stuff, right? You've been holding and holding and holding, and then you convert, and then that's when those coins finally move. And I can't tell you exactly when they're going to move. I'm not a person that goes all in or all out of anything. Like any trade, I don't just go all in or all out. It's more of a systematic move. So I wouldn't just convert everything over to Bitcoin. Sorry, I'm just trying to read the comments. What fraction of your overall investment portfolio do you think should be in crypto? I mean, I think it depends on your age and your goals. There's not really a one size fits all solution. No, I mean we don't. We're not going to do super chats. We do have the premium list, so you can always check the description out for that if you want that. But we're not going to do the super chat stuff. Um, yeah, we just talked about Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, I think ADA is an accumulation zone. Ethereum. Someone says Ethereum should move soon. I mean, I think again it comes down to whether Bitcoin finally calms down or not. Um, We actually do have a Discord, but it's fairly inactive. I would recommend checking out the Telegram channel because the Telegram channel is basically where the discussions actually happen. So I'll post the link to the Telegram channel in the chat again if you guys want to join. Someone says he was the guy who bought the two pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. I guess there's no way for us to verify that, but if you are that guy, then that's pretty cool. I was sort of hoping we could maybe see Bitcoin break 27K on the live stream, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen. I don't think we're gonna do a 24-hour stream. Maybe we'll go to a shorter time frame and see what's going on with Bitcoin, but I mean we're sort of trending up. Maybe we can continue. Yeah, I know it. I know it went to 27K on some exchanges. I know. Will I still have Bitcoin in 30 years? I hope so. Someone says the link Bitcoin daily RSI. You guys, I'll show it. You might want to you might want to close your eyes. So you might want to you might want to close your eyes for this one because it's hard to look at. I'm not gonna lie, right? It's pretty hard to look at. There it is. That's the weekly RSI. The weekly is basically at the bottom that the historical bottom. It doesn't mean it can't go lower because even the historical bottom is still above 30, which below 30 typically means oversold. If you guys want to look at the daily RSI, we will pull it up, but I will warn you, viewer discretion is advised. There it is. That's the daily link Bitcoin RSI. Down to 17. Yeah, I mean, you guys are saying does not mean it's a good buy. I mean, I'm accumulating link. I'm accumulating it right now, right? I'm just saying, looking at the link Bitcoin RSI, I mean, it has just gotten hammered the last few weeks. RSI is the relative strength index. I'm holding Ethereum. I'm holding it. I do own a significant amount of more Bitcoin than Ethereum, but I am going to hold. I'm going to continue holding Ethereum here, and see where it takes us over the next few months. So hopefully this downtrend will change at some point. I mean, again, it will depend on whenever Bitcoin volatility calms down. I would like to think Bitcoin volatility will come down at some point in the next few months. We'll see. We'll see when that happens. What do I think are some good Bitcoin buy-in levels? I mean, always the 20-week, right? If we ever go back to the 20-week moving average, always there, but that's a lot lower than the current price. It's currently around 14.6, so it's so far away from where we currently are that that's not really practical. If you're new, you could always look at say other milestones, right? Accumulating it up to a higher risk level, so that would always be an option. I wouldn't buy it here, but that doesn't mean it can't go up. Yeah, I know, my laptop just started gearing up for takeoff. Yeah, I know I need other mic stuff. I don't know. Can you copy the BLX? Well, the trading view indicators for the premium list, so you can check that out in the description. But I mean, these are just regression bands fit to the data. They're not. It's not that complicated, honestly. Yeah, so the premium list comes with like weekly videos, weekly reports, a risk dashboard, trading view indicators, an alerts channel on Telegram, a few other things. I can show you guys what the risk dashboard looks like if you want to see it. I guess I never actually have showed it on the public channel. Let's see if we can push to 27. I was hoping we could get one of these milestones on a live stream. We're still sitting around 26.8. Some people think it's coming, but we'll see. They say we'll hit it. We'll hit 27K right when I log off. Yeah, that's generally how it works. When do I start to take profits on ADA? Not anytime soon, unless unless the price just simply explodes. But I don't really plan on taking it because unless it just goes up the risk levels immediately. A milestone is the price didn't drop for once on my stream. Yeah, it does generally go down. It doesn't always go down. Sometimes I just kill the rally and it goes sideways. $26.85. Sorry if I'm not answering all the questions. I generally just can't get to all of them. Someone says they're tired of waiting on ADA. I mean, it's up. I mean, from the bottom, it's up like almost like 10x almost. I think around 10x this year, right in the last 9 months. Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about taking profits, then just hold, right? It's pretty simple. If you don't want to take profits, that's fine. Just hold. Why have we not seen a drop? Actually, we're gonna do a video on this. Someone, I think Max, kind of alerted me to this, but this is an interesting trend. So buckle up. I haven't showed this one before. Let's switch it over to BLX. So you guys are fully aware of the bull market support band, okay? Now we're going to add a new moving average, and we're going to show that historically speaking, anytime we break this moving average, we go to the 20-week, okay? At least from the last market cycle and then this one. I'm pretty sure every time we've broken this moving average, we do go to the 20-week moving average. So does anyone care to guess what it is? What moving average is it? Like that once we historically break, we then go to the 20-week moving average. Just keep an eye on the live price. Okay, we've come back down a little, so I guess we can just look at it on here anyways. So we'll put up this bull market support. No, it's not the 20-day. It's not the 20-day, but I mean that's a decent try. If you look at the 20-day, so here's the 20-day. The 20-day isn't that important, but sorry, this is the 20-week. The 20-day is not that important, but when we hold it as support, we can generally continue to push, like, you know, just continue bouncing back up to higher highs in the short term. When we break it, it doesn't mean that it's the bad news bears. It just means that we might range for a while. We hold it as support, we trend higher, right? Hold it as support, trend higher. So it's a decent level to hold, but that's not the one I'm talking about. All right, so it is we gotta go to the weekly chart. So we're looking at the weekly chart. We don't care about this one. It's this one, I believe. We'll do a video on this, the 12-week EMA. So I believe, and maybe my eyes have deceived me, I believe if you look back any time during a bull market that we've broken below the 12-week EMA, we've always gone to the 20-week SMA, okay? And let's just walk through it. Or yeah, so here's an example. We broke through it, we went to the 20-week, okay? We broke through it, we went to the 20-week. Broke through, straight to the 20-week, broke through, straight to the 20-week, broke through it, straight to the 20, broke through it, straight to the 20, and then here we were in the bear market, right? So we broke through it and then we trended down. Back over here, holding it as support, good, support, good, support, good. We break it, straight to the 20, right? Straight to the 20, more or less. Here we come back up, we broke it, go down to the 20, all the way back down, support, great, no testing yet, of course, up. We break it here, down to the 20-week. We get back above it. So far, we have not tested it in the short term. So currently, the 12-week EMA is at 18,437. So it's still a lot further down than where we currently are. Might be an interesting thing to keep an eye on because we've seen that during the last market cycle, if we break it, we tend to also go to the 20-week SMA. Just something that's interesting. We'll probably do a standalone video on it, but that's something to think about. EMA is an exponential moving average, so it weights recent prices more than older prices, I guess. So like it just weights the prices differently and puts more emphasis on more recent dates than older dates. My favorite programming language is Python. All right, Tom, we'll have to get rid of that, man. Sorry, buddy. All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. If you guys like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. We also do have a Telegram channel. We have over 10,700 people, so check it out. We'll post it in the chat. Remember, we also do have the you know, the premium list, so we'll post that if you guys want to check it out. We do have a holiday sale. We'll keep it going on for a little bit longer before the prices go back up. Yeah, we already looked at DXY Gladiator, so I'm not sure why you're putting that in capital letters. But anyways, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, check out the Telegram channel, all that in the description below. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Turn on your alerts, and we will see you guys next time. Maybe the next live stream will be even higher. Maybe we'll have the crash by that point, or maybe not a complete crash, but maybe a substantial correction. So we'll see when it comes. It will come at some point, and when it does, hopefully we can hold the line. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.